Greetings. So today I thought I usually write maybe doing spoken word or doing animation of a script or writing either as poems whereby there are those images and the words that are there. But now I'm thinking from the reader's perspective. Do you know who your writer is? So today I thought maybe I should do this. Do know your writer? So I'll start with the introduction. My name is Hamid Omar, and I am a writer, an author, a poet, a novelist, a script writer, a short story writer, spoken word artist, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a certified professional mediator, and also a budding painter. So for law, you can find me at Hamid and Associates Advocates, which at socials it's found at LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook by the name Hamid Advocate. So the question maybe somebody will ask is, why do I write? So I've really thought about this one, and one thing that I have discovered was, in beginning high school, 2010, thereabout, my father introduced me to the Tony Buzan books about mind map that used to teach a new style of how to read so that you can memorize, like the word that you read or those things that you read become ingrained in your mind. So one of them was these Tony Buzan books. I know there are some series like 4 or 6. So one of them, all of them talk about this, basically it's the same thing, which is mind map. So one of it there, he talked about a certain author who is very known international, who writes horror novel, horror stories. So the question that he was asked was, where do you get these motivations from? So from that reading, he said, actually the horror movies are usually a depiction of the horror dreams he usually has. Like since time immemorial, him is just dreaming scary dreams and something like that. So now he uses those dreams to books. So basically, on my end, I'm also of the same style because I have these nightmares. Like at night, there are these bad dreams. So the questions that got me asking is, if I'm sleeping and the mind is this creative, what can I do when I'm awake? So basically, that's the reason. And then when did I start writing? So in my first book called Beyond the Marriage, there I state the time I started writing, which was in Form 2, 2011, whereby I used to compete with a friend of mine called Said Kasim, him writing mashairi and me writing novels. So come 2013, when I finished Form 4, that's when my father asked what I wanted to become. So I answered a writer and a lawyer. So when I answered that, he said, for law, it's going to school, but for a writer, you have to be both a reader of many books and to write. So you should know that, like, you have to be on your own thought process. So are you prepared to be like that? I answered yes. So he used to share with me some articles on how to write, and also he gave me some books to read on how to write. And then most of the time he used to come with newspapers then from work. So when he comes with them, he just gives, then I start reading them. Then come 2015, 2016, I continued that space. Then in 2014, I accidentally found the other day that I had written a collection of poems. I titled it Where From. So I wish to release that. So I'll release it later on. So then come 2015, 2016, I started meeting my English. Here now is here is now where the discussion comes in. I hope I'm right. I went to meet my teacher of English at high school, Madam Selina, who I used to get like advice on how to write the novels and something like that. So she suggested to me some books which I went to read, and also she gave me a very important advice, which was to write short character, like few characters with the tense that I should use is the past tense. So in that discussion, then when I started reading the books, like you have to be a good reader. I found poems to be very difficult for me to understand. So yeah, poems initially are very difficult. So then, if they are difficult, how did I begin to start writing poems? Actually, writing poems came, I think, how do I say it? Is it natural? I just found myself starting to write poems. Compared to stories or novel or script, you have to teach yourself how to write a story. For example, there is description, there is location, there is dialogue, tenses, and something like that. But compared to poems, I just started. The knowledge that I had from high school is the one that I used up to now. So I haven't taught myself, it just came. For poems, it just came. So I write poems, and just like that, I start writing. So my achievements so far in writing, I think the achievement can be three-paced. One of them is that after writing my first book, Beyond the Marriage, in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, this one actually identified it the other day that my book was used as a reference by, if I'm not mistaken, she's a professor of literature at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, South Africa. She's called Grace A. Mosila. The article was titled East and Central Africa, and it was at the Journal of Commonwealth Literature 2021, volume 56, bracket 4, page 577 to 591. And then the other one was me being my poem, my poem titled Long Time, was featured in the Writers Space Africa magazine, the February issue of 2023, which was issue 74. So basically, this is an African online magazine that posts literature. When I say literature, I mean poems, short stories, and yes, if I'm not, it's been a while, but it's literature. It usually releases a magazine every month online, and it has won various awards to its name. And then the third one is 2023, which I co-authored a book together with Faith Akofa Buria, whereby we wrote a book called Simple is Poetry that teaches school-going students about poems, their types, the elements, their styles, then together with examples of poems with answers, then with questions and answers, then with poems with questions, then at the end, ending with answers. Then we also talked about tone, mood, and attitude in there. So what I'm currently working on, there's this book okay, there are many things, but there's this book I'm writing on life experience about change from within. Like there are some things or changes or events that happen to your life that ultimately changes you. Maybe you feel sad, you'll feel unhappiness, you feel like not doing anything and something like that. These changes, an example, may include sickness, loss of a loved one, or hurt. So basically, it's a lesson to be in that moment, how it is to be in that moment, and then from that moment, what you learn. Because at the end of the day, from that moment is when you learn there's a lesson to it. So another one is that I'm working on a show called Alioral Show, but that one is too early right now. You'll discover it at my socials. What the books that I'm reading right now, I usually balance between law and writing. Since I'm also a lawyer, I have to balance both fields. So currently the book I'm reading is law related. It's called The Small Farm Roadmap, written by members of Lawyerist. So I have a law firm called Hamid and Associates Advocates. So it's 2 years. It's clocking 2 years, nearing 2 years. So now I have to keep on learning from my seniors so as to learn a few tricks, one or two thereabout. On the literally, while the previous work that I read, this one was from a friend who writes, and they shared their work. It's found at Webnovel, both the website and the app. Its title, the author name is Radiant Rose Writer 1, and the work is rejected by her ex, doted by his boss. So yeah, that has been me. I hope you enjoyed that brief Know Your Writer. So that has been my time, and thank you for listening.